Welcome to Pilates and Planks. My name is Callie, and today we're going to be discussing neutral pelvis. So we have a wobble board with us here today that will represent a person's pelvis, and there are ping pong balls that are attached to this wobble board to represent the three bony landmarks of the pelvis. The two orange balls will represent the two hip bones, or the ASIS, and the red ball will represent the pubic bone. So let's examine the pelvis when a person is lying down, so supine. The person's head is going to be this way and their feet are this way, just for reference. When a person lies down, ideally all three of these landmarks are residing on the same plane, and this will result in just a small natural arch in the lumbar spine. However, sometimes we'll see that when a person lies down, their pelvis takes a big spill forward into what's called an anterior tilt. And this is when the two hip bones are higher than the pubic bone. The other alternative is that sometimes a person's pelvis will tilt backwards into a posterior tilt, and this is when the person's pubic bone is higher than the two hip bones. Pilates, we try to strive for neutral whenever we're working in a closed kinetic chain. So a closed kinetic chain is when your feet are in contact with a stable surface, such as the mat, the foot bar, or even leg straps. The reason that we strive to work in a neutral position is because it is the most anatomically safe position for your pelvis, and it's going to allow your spine and the rest of your kinetic chain to be properly aligned through specific movements. What causes somebody to be forced into an anterior position here is usually really tight hip flexors coupled by weak abdominals. So to correct this anterior tilt in a person, we need to not only lengthen the hip flexors, but also strengthen the abdominals so the abs can help pull that pelvis back into a neutral starting position. When a person is stuck in a posterior tilt this way, they actually need to lengthen their abdominals and contract their glutes. So those glutes need to help pull the pelvis back to that neutral position, and the abs sort of need to relax and lengthen back out. So this is why Pilates is so revolutionary for a body, especially when somebody is going through lots of aches and pains or misalignments within the body, because Pilates addresses the pelvis in every single exercise. It's like the number one thing that I'm looking for. I'm making sure that their pelvis is either neutral or imprint, which we'll be discussing imprint in a separate video, but neutral, because if they're not neutral, then like I was saying before, there's going to be effects all up and down the kinetic chain. When a person goes into that dramatic anterior tilt when they're lying down, what you'll often see is not only that bigger arch in their lumbar spine here. I'm going to put my arm up so that we can see the side of me here. But if a person's laying like this, hopefully you notice that now like I got pulled into a really awkward position, not only through my lower back, but my rib cage and even my neck has changed position. So it's essentially like literally just dragging a person's body out of their optimal alignment. The same can be said for if a person goes into that posterior tilt. What will happen is their ribs will actually kind of depress or collapse inwards, and they might get this like chin tucking in towards their sternum. When you come into a neutral position and a person has that natural arch in their lumbar spine, maybe not right away, but the more they train in that position, the more the natural curves of their spine will be restored, and the better the rest of their alignment within their bodies will be through their shoulders, through their neck, and head alignment. As a Stop Pilates instructor, I'm trained to examine a person's pelvic placement, and when I examine that and I see what their pelvis naturally falls into, whether it's anterior or posterior, that's how I design their program around what their specific body needs. I wouldn't be giving the same exercises to somebody who's naturally in that anterior tilt as I would for somebody who's in that posterior tilt, because they just don't need the same things. Somebody who is constantly stuck in an anterior tilt doesn't need to be doing a ton of swan or spinal extensions because that lower back is already in such an extended position. Just like somebody who is in a posterior tilt doesn't need to be doing a ton of roll downs. That's just going to further enhance or exaggerate that super posterior tilt of the pelvis.